Welcome to Flats Nation Sound Bites, where we share tips, tricks, and product information to help you better enjoy our sport and lifestyle. And a big shout out to Brother Dave Fader for the awesome music. You can check out more of Dave's phenomenal work on davidfader.com. This is your host, Dave Legier, and welcome back to Flats Nation Sound Bites. In this volume, Captain Mike Anderson and I discuss the various conservation efforts we support with the CCA of Florida and Captains for Clean Water, along with some observations we have on both of these great organizations. I know you've been involved with several conservation groups. Which ones are you working with nowadays, and what improvements have you seen because of those efforts? And improvements really have you seen?
Here's the issue. I think, for those people that know me and those people that don't, CCA, for me, Coastal Conservation Association, is doing a great job, especially doing a great job with what they have to work with. If you think about this, in the entire country, there's like 340,000 members of CCA. In the entire country, not in Florida, not in Texas, not in Louisiana, the entire country. And now we have CCA, especially it's real heavy, Gulf Coast, East Coast,
That's right.
Georgia, the Carolinas. There's chapters of CCA in a lot of those places. And I've said this on the radio show. I've said it up with Florida ICAST. I've said it at every seminar I can think of ever since I figured it out. You know as well as I do that if you're a gun owner, there's a contingency of people in this country that do not want you to have your guns.
No.
And if they could take them, they would take them. You know why they don't take your guns? Because the politicians know that there's 6 million members of the NRA. That's just members of the NRA.
That's right.
That's just guaranteed 6 million gun owners. Now, you and I and everybody else out there that's educated at all knows that there's way more than 6 million guns on the streets.
Oh, this is true. And I think one time I saw a report where just the deer hunters in the United States alone was like the third largest armed army on the planet.
For sure. 100%.
That's people really need to equate that.
100%. So I've said it before. The reason that the conservation efforts by some of these groups don't work is because the recreational anglers as a whole, charter captains included, we're just lazy. We do not get involved. We stand on the dock and bitch and piss and moan about all the issues going on in our waterways. We don't like that CCA did this, and Captains for Clean Water did this, and blah 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 blah. Shut up and put your money where your mouth is and get involved. And again, I was guilty. I was super busy, and I was getting an invite to the CCA banquet here in Tampa every year. Well, if you get an invite to sit at a table, you get a free membership. So I'm on the radio barking that everybody should be involved, and I wasn't even spending my own money. Well, I fixed that because I came home one day and said, you know what? I can't do that. I can't do this. I'm going to be a life member. So I wrote a check. I wrote a $1,000 check to be a life member of CCA, and it's my biggest soapbox. And it's because of the diversity of the things they work. And I know some people, especially those people that have a big love affair with Captains for Clean Water, which I also do. I love Captains for Clean Water. I wrote them a very big check when Chris Whitman and Daniel came to Tampa to be on my radio show, because I believe in what they're doing. What I don't believe in is I don't believe in those two groups doing battle. And for some reason, there's a rift.
No, it needs to be a common cause.
There's a rift, right? There's a rift there at the top of the organizations. And I don't know, CCA will tell you it's captains, and captains will tell you it's CCA. I don't really care whose fault it is. It's asinine, and it's ridiculous, and it's childish. And
Just
it's the problem. It's the problem we have with all our policies. Right. We're all, clean water is nothing. Anyone who's fighting for clean water, I'm in. I get it. And anyone that's fighting for oyster beds and helping Blair Wiggins with his clam restoration project over there in Mosquito Lagoon, just like CCA is. They're doing that redfish restocking with Duke Energy. I mean, all of the things that CCA Florida, CCA National does for our fishery, how anyone Captains for Clean Water included, could take a shot at them. Makes no sense to me. 0 sense. It's not helping anything. With that being said, we need people to be involved. We need a bigger voice. If there was 3 million members of CCA Florida or CCA National, and our lobbyists went to the floor with issues, you'd have the politicians' ears. You're not getting their ears with 300,000 people. They're not noticing it. They don't care. It's that simple. And it drives me nuts, for as cheap as it is to do it. And they go out, Texas was doing a great job of the CCA Star Tournament concept. Brian Gorski, Lisa Fitzgerald, the great people at CCA Florida bring that concept here. And it's so much fun and it's so easy. I talk about it on the radio show all the time. It's like 101 days of fishing over the summer and multiple species, offshore, inshore, tarpon. There's all these species in this thing. Costs you little to nothing to get in. I think it's $75 or $80 total for your membership plus your entry fee in the CCA Florida Star Tournament. I had a guy on my boat that was fishing a charter with his wife and his son. He won a boat.
They're not cheap. They're not cheap, brother.
He won a boat. I mean, I was totally freaked out. I showed up at the Star Banquet. Here's this family waiting to get on the trolley to go to the banquet from the hotel that we were all staying at. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And he goes, remember that speckle? We were catching redfish one after another out of this big school. And he catches like a 23-inch trout out of the middle of his school of redfish. And he goes, hey, do you mind if I put this in the CCA Star Tournament? I don't have a trout registered yet. And I laughed. I'm like, of course I don't mind. That's awesome. Go ahead. He won a boat. Amazing. Dude won a boat. I know Jerry Bergeron, who won the very first truck that they gave away. He signed up at my outdoor expo at the Tampa Fairgrounds, at the Florida State Fairgrounds. I'm sorry, here in Tampa. And I mean, there's winners. People actually win stuff all the time. And you're going to go fishing all summer anyway. All my listeners on the radio, people who watch the TV shows, they watch CA, they watch me, they watch Murph, they watch Blair, they watch The Sea Hunter, they watch George Gods. They're all ate up with fishing. You're going to fish all summer anyway. You're going to the Keys, you're going everywhere. Why wouldn't you get involved in CCA and take advantage of all the stuff that they're giving away?
For less than the cost of a decent dinner.
Makes no sense to me.
It's not logical. It's not logical at all. And you and I have talked about this in the past. I just don't think people realize how big recreational fishing, when it comes to dollars and cents, is here in the state of Florida alone.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be able to get just about anything accomplished because of the billions of dollars it's getting to be. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And again, that, if you add all that up and you could tell the politicians, man, and there should be, listen, it's totally ridiculous that there isn't 3 million members of CCA Florida. It's ridiculous. Too many people living on the coast here. That we should have 3 million members of CCA Florida.
Just their efforts on the net ban alone. You and I both remember that battle.
Of course. Well, and part of that, we get a little pushback from the commercial guys that are still pissed at CCA because CCA made such a big push for it. But and again, the bad part about that was, there's good commercial guys that didn't drop their nets in front of creeks in February that they knew were choked full of redfish and trout. There were guys that only struck mullet and had very little collateral damage in the fishery. There was guys who did it, commercial guys who did it the right way, and there was commercial guys who didn't. And unfortunately, the commercial guys who didn't beat up the process, and those guys who were doing it by the book and correctly and, with good conservation in mind, they lost on that deal. So I understand. I have a lot of friends who commercial mullet fish, and I get it. I totally understand the bitterness to that side. That being said, the fishing's better. It just is. The fishing's better because of the net.
Well, you can't wipe out your nursery and expect to have any fish left.
No, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. Now our battle is water quality, and we've got to get that straightened out. It's because you can enact all the regulations and stuff that you want to, and you can shut things down. But all it takes is a super big red tide event or some other, like we have coming down the Caloosahatchee, that just kicks off that mess. And it's all for naught. It's all for naught. I mean, years worth of time and effort for nothing when everything just burns up and dies off. Just makes a mess out of everything.
Yeah, it's just really sad.
It is.
It just is. It's a little bit heartbreaking, the whole concept of it. And again, I can rattle tat on some conservation chatter all day just because it's done so much for my family. These estuaries are so important. And again, my hat's off to CCA as an organization for doing so many great things.
With so little.
With so little. And they work with so many great organizations. Tampa Bay Watch, working on seagrass right here in my backyard. They do, they're dropping these giant concrete, pyramids all over offshore, making artificial reefs, replacing ones that are getting deteriorated because of time. There's just a lot of great things that CCA does and again, people are busy. I get it. I don't have time to go to Tallahassee. I wish I did because, at 6'5", 270 pounds, I could probably scare some politicians into making the right decision.
No, you don't want to go to Tallahassee, brother.
Yeah, I'd be in jail.
You'd be in jail.
I know. But what what I'm saying? I mean, I'm glad that they go and I'm glad they do what they do. And for me to pay, $35-$40 a year membership dues for them to do that for me, to me just seems like a no-brainer.
Well, the return on investment is just phenomenal.
Yes, for sure. 100%.
And you can read more about these very same topics in the conservation category on flatsnation.com. And just as a reminder for your Christmas and other gift needs, our store's casual and the newer Flats Nation technical wear, which has recently received some very positive reviews, has now been updated. You can view and order them by going to our site and clicking on the link in the top title bar for our store. Well, we hope you enjoyed our show today and found it both educational and entertaining at the same time. If you or your company would like to join the team on Flats Nation for a podcast or other coverage, feel free to drop us a quick note at info@flatsnation.com. And now, here's the rest of the song to run the skiff back home with. Tight lines and God bless.